What's up, YouTubers? This is your boy Big Metro Fan 12 coming to you with another video game review. And in this review, I'm going to talk about the game Battletoads and Double Dragon: The Ultimate Team, which was released on the NES, Super Nintendo, Nintendo Game Boy, and Sega Genesis by Tradewest and Rare. And this is a crossover, of course, of the Double Dragon franchise and the Battletoad franchise. And pretty much the plot of the game is that the Dark Queen fled from the Battletoads after her defeat by the hands of the Battletoads and everything, and like a giant spaceship called the Colossus pretty much crashed on the moon, and when like that happened, the Dark Queen pretty much cooked up a scheme to take over the galaxy again, and she also joined forces with the Shadow Gang. You know what I'm saying? And when the Battletoads pretty much found out about it, they were able to contact Jimmy and Billy Lee and stuff like that, and to ask for their help. So the Lee brothers, of course, agreed to help out the Battletoads and stuff like that. Now, the Genesis, Super Nintendo, and NES version have the two-player co-op in it, but the Game Boy version don't. You know what I'm saying? That is pretty much the only big difference among all of the versions and stuff like that. Now, whether you're playing the Game Boy, NES, Super Nintendo, or Genesis version, you can pretty much play as Rash, Pimple, Zit, Billy, or Jimmy, and everything. Now, with a two-player co-op, you can like pick one of the lead brother. You could pick the lead brothers, for example, two of the Battletoads, or a lead like Jimmy and Rash and stuff like that. So there's a few combinations, you know what I'm saying, in terms of which playable character you want to use in the two-player co-op and stuff like that. Now, of course the modes for the home console versions are the single player, the two-player co-op A, and two-player co-op B. You know what I'm saying. Now, the main difference between two-player co-op A and the two-player co-op B is that with I will say the latter is the one where you and the other player can hurt each other and everything, which I'll be honest enough to admit that never made any sense to me with beat 'em ups specifically. You know what I'm saying? Because I remember that Double Dragon 2 was like that. You know what I'm saying? Where you could where the options where you and somebody else can hurt each other in the game and stuff like that. So that part of it was always pointless to me. You know what I'm saying? And one thing about it goes with the tradition of the Battletoads franchise, where if like one player dies, both players have to start from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? And pretty much they can't. The player that dies in two-player co-op can't respond in the spot where they died at, which again I don't know why the programmers at Tradewest and Ware pretty much did that, you know. So it's mind-boggling to say the least. Now, of course, there's seven stages in the game where you fight through the Shadow Gang and the Dark Queen's minions and stuff like that, and the enemies range from Ryder to Linda Lash. You know what I'm saying, when you encounter the bosses and stuff like that, well, the regular enemies and stuff like that. Now, pretty much the bosses of the stages are pretty much a Bobo, Big Bland, Rober, Ratship, General Slaughter, Rubble Mantis, the Shadow Boss, and the Dark Queen and everything. Of course, the Dark Queen being the main antagonist and stuff like that. Now, the moves that the Battletoads have are pretty, of course, consistent with the previous Battletoad games that came before this particular game, like the Nuclear Knuckles, Kiss My Fist, the Big Bad Boo, and stuff like that. Now, same thing with the moves the Lee brothers have. They're pretty consistent with the previous Double Dragon games, like the jumping spin kick, the jump kick, flying knee, and stuff like that. And of course, this game has the, the bike section. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think it's as hard as the original Turbo Tunnel. You know what I'm saying? And then the original Turbo Tunnel for the first Battletoad game is pretty infamous for being as harder, tougher than a $3 steak. You know. Now, pretty much the graphics and design for Battletoads and Double Dragon the Ultimate Team are very good with some excellent color palettes and stuff like that. Now, the Super Nintendo version pretty much has the advantage in this area, especially when you compare with the NES version and the Game Boy versions when you talk about the color palette and all of that, you know. And the controls and gameplay are pretty good, you know what I'm saying. And pretty much it does come down to personal preference on which Battletoad or Lead Brother that you like to use in playing the game and stuff like that, you know. Now the soundtrack is pretty good, you know what I'm saying. But I would say that the Genesis version, from a general standpoint, has like a like a slight advantage over the other three versions and stuff. Now, the biggest gripe that I do have with Battletoads and Double Dragon the Ultimate Team is, of course, the difficulty and stuff like that. And pretty much, I would say it's just as hard as the first Battletoads game for the NES and everything. And pretty much just like the two-player co-op of Battletoads for the NES, the two-player co-op B is just as unplayable as the two-player co-op in Battletoads for the NES due to the fact that you had to deal with the difficulty and the fact that both players can hurt each other. Now, most people who play this game will say, why not play the two-player co-op A where you don't hurt each other? The best answer is that you still have to deal with difficulty and stuff like that. And the fact that you can't hurt each other makes it slightly easier. I have to emphasize the word slightly here, you know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where with the fact that both players can hurt each other, like I said before, just never made any sense to me. And to beat them up and everything. Now, I can honestly say that I think that Battletoads and Double Dragon the Ultimate Team could have had a sequel, but the difficulty was a deal breaker and everything. Now, I can say that um, games should have a reasonable amount of challenge and stuff, but a game shouldn't be like mind-numbingly hard and everything. And this is where Tradewest and Rare had pretty much dropped the ball with Battletoads and Double Dragon Ultimate Team. You know what I'm saying? Now, this particular game pretty much has a limited appeal because because of both Double Dragon and Battletoads have a fan base. You know what I'm saying? So it really boils down to which version that you like the best. If you're a fan of Double Dragon and Battletoads, you know what I'm saying? It's a question of do you like the NES version, Super Nintendo version, Sega Genesis version, or the Game Boy version and everything. With that being said, as far as the score, I definitely give Battletoads and Double Dragon Ultimate Team a 7 out of 10 because of how hard this game is, you know what I'm saying? Now, with that being said, you can sound off in the comment section about double Battletoads and Double Dragon Ultimate Team, you know what I'm saying? Whether or not you like it, you know, and if you do like it, you can mention which version that you like, whether it's the Game Boy version, NES version, the Super Nintendo version, or the Genesis version, and all that. And if you like this video, don't hesitate to click the thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notification button. This is your boy Big Metroid Fan 12 signing off.